Well, one of the mysteries of the Epstein saga has apparently been solved. One of the questions that a lot of people had was that where did this guy get his money? We knew that some of it came from Leslie Wexner. Leslie Wexner was his only known client that we had ever heard of. Leslie Wexner also gave Jeffrey Epstein his townhouse in New York, the one that had the painting of Bill Clinton wearing the blue dress. That townhouse was gifted to Epstein by Leslie Wexner. But now we're finding out that there was a second client, someone who was associated with Jeffrey Epstein towards the end of his life. And that man is Leon Black of Apollo Asset Management, a private equity firm, a guy who, makes a lot of money, manages a lot of money, handles a lot of money. He apparently paid $148 million to Jeffrey Epstein personally, and $10 million to his quote-unquote charity. So $158 million to Jeffrey Epstein. This was after Epstein had been convicted of, quote-unquote prostitution, which of course is was a little way of getting, that was a part of Epstein's sweetheart deal. So Black apparently is almost single-handedly responsible for financing Jeffrey Epstein's lifestyle. Now, from when I normally listen to kind of Wall Street guys, investors that I listen to, talk about Epstein, it was always so perplexing to most of them because they had never heard of the guy. They didn't know him as some financial whiz kid. People who worked on Wall Street at the time when Jeffrey Epstein was coming up never knew him. They had never seen him before. And, Wall Street is, it's one street. So these guys who work in these investment banks, generally speaking, they know each other, or at least would be aware of each other if you're someone who's, got to be supposedly as successful as Jeffrey Epstein was. Now, Leon Black claims that Jeffrey Epstein, what he paid him for was services rendered relating to advice on filing his taxes, and that Jeffrey Epstein had saved him somewhere between $1 and $2 billion, and that he thought that, the $158 million that he paid him was a pretty fair fee, considering, how much he saved. Now, I don't think anyone is buying that for a second, not even the board members of his company, which is probably why he's resigning as the CEO. And so, even though we know that it's total BS that this $158 million was a payment for tax advice, considering that, if you run a private equity firm, you've got the best tax experts in the world on your payroll. You don't need to go out and contract with anybody for that. You've got these people working in your office. You don't need to go fly down to West Palm Beach and, visit Jeffrey Epstein at Mar-a-Lago or some other club, or go down to the Virgin Islands and stay on, take the Lolita Express and stay on Little St. James with him. All you'd have to do, if you were the CEO of Apollo, is pick up the phone and call call whoever works in accounting in your company and say, hey, how do we pay as little in taxes as possible? So with that said, what the hell was he paying Epstein for? Why? Was he receiving anything from Epstein? Was he getting some kind of services? We don't know of anybody else that paid Epstein for services, if you know what I mean. I don't want to say what kind of services I'm talking about, but let's just say that it had, it's related to the young masseuses that he employed on his island. For everything that we understand about the whole Epstein saga was that he was entrapping these wealthy and influential men who he would invite down there and allow to partake in some of the fun and the excitement. It seemed like that was a blackmail operation. It didn't seem like he was, pimping girls out to these guys, so that he could, make money off of, prostitution fees. And so what that would lead me to believe is that, without, again, I'm not alleging that any of this is true. I'm just speculating what might Leon Black have been paying, could he have been paying Epstein for? Perhaps it was something related to getting that blackmail information for himself. Maybe the kinds of people who Epstein potentially was blackmailing, perhaps Leon Black wanted some of that information for himself. Maybe that's why he was bankrolling Epstein. Perhaps, even though it's been speculated, and I think somewhat, well, not quite proven, but pretty circumstantially connected. Epstein might have worked for Mossad or CIA for a long time. Perhaps after he was out of jail, if he's getting all this money from Leon Black, maybe he was working for Leon Black at that point, and that perhaps whatever Epstein was doing, rather than entrapping and blackmailing powerful men on behalf of intelligence agencies, he was doing it on behalf of Apollo and Leon Black. Now, I'm not defaming Black. I don't know that. I don't know any of this. This is pure speculation, so I'm pretty sure this is counted under free speech. I don't think that I can be sued for this. I don't want anyone to think that what I'm saying is 100% true by any means. But I think it's fair to look at what is being reported in the Wall Street Journal and in Zero Hedge and look at it with a bit of skepticism and to try and, think in our heads logically what really might have gone on here. I think that anyone who enabled Jeffrey Epstein to live the life that he did, to engage in the evil acts that he did, should face the strongest scrutiny. I think that the same goes for Leslie Wexner and for the father of William Barr, Attorney General Bill Barr. His father gave Jeffrey Epstein his first job, working at the Dalton School in New York. He hired Jeffrey Epstein to be a math teacher at a school. And of course, I've already explained what Wexner and Black did. These are all people who enabled Jeffrey Epstein, who were his patrons, essentially. And I think that there's probably more people, more groups, more agencies perhaps, that patronized Jeffrey Epstein throughout his life that we haven't learned about yet. And all of those should be scrutinized too. Perhaps someone like Whitney Webb can do some digging into Leon Black. Probably wouldn't be too hard to see if he has connections to intelligence himself. Perhaps Apollo. And again, I'm just spitballing here. I don't know. I haven't looked. This story just came out. I haven't had enough time to look into what's on Apollo's balance sheet. But maybe they invest in some certain tech companies, and because as we know, the CIA and the Mossad both are very they're very interested in this cutting-edge technology stuff. Mossad explicitly invests money into the Israeli tech industry. The Israeli tech industry itself is entirely almost a front for the intelligence community. In the U.S., it's a pretty close connection too, but it's less overt. It's not like the CIA owns Google and Amazon, but they're pretty much tied at the hip. And so just one sign that we can look for to see if maybe Apollo and Black are closely tied to the intelligence community, and thus would kind of explain maybe the Epstein connection, is their ties to certain tech firms. And again, I'm trying to be careful here because I don't want to get too far bridged from reality, but when you have a conspiracy as pernicious as the life of Jeffrey Epstein, you kind of have to turn over as many rocks as you can to uncover, whatever the truth is about this entire matter, because nobody's going to do it for us. The FBI is not going to do it for us. The police are not going to do it for us. They're going to try and cover it up because Epstein worked for powerful people. He was associated with powerful people, and if Epstein was exposed, that would expose a lot of powerful people. The dirt, the blackmail that Jeffrey Epstein had on all these powerful people, it was not meant for something to expose them to weakness in front of ordinary people. It was supposed to make them weak and vulnerable to blackmail from other powerful people. Okay, this is what Epstein did was an intra-elite crime, so to speak. Whatever dirt Epstein had on all these people, they don't want, the elite, whether they were affiliated with Epstein or not, do not want that getting out to the plebs. Epstein, at the end of the day, was one of them, and they deal with their own. It's kind of like when the mafia, when they kill a guy, even if the guy was a murderer and he should go to prison and get the death penalty or something, they don't turn him into the police. They kill him themselves. They police their own, and that's what the elite did with Epstein. The elite did not want Epstein to go through the court system and be tried like a normal person, so almost certainly because he would expose who he collaborated with over the years. And so he ended up dead. I'm not going to act like I know how, but you can probably imagine a few scenarios. So if I have time, I'm going to try and look deeper into this to see if anything more comes out of this later in the week. But for now, this is a story that just came out today. I just saw it this afternoon, and I wanted to address it because this is not something that should go under the radar. This is not something that should just get swept under the rug. This is, the biggest story of the week by far. No matter what else happens in the rest of the week, this is the biggest thing. We now have another confirmed Epstein conspirator. And no, I'm not saying that there's evidence that this guy directly committed illegal acts with Epstein. All I'm saying is that this guy bankrolled Epstein. So did Leslie Wexner. Leslie Wexner is not an innocent guy. He might be in the eyes of the so-called criminal justice system, but he's not an innocent person. Neither is this guy. They are enablers of Epstein, and they need to be investigated to the hilt. So, with that said, if you gained anything of value to this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe because I do upload every day, and I'd hate to have you miss one. So, I'll see folks back here tomorrow.